Only in Kentucky can a single county claim a post-Civil War showdown with the Ku Klux Klan, a secret lead and zinc mining industry, and a Mormon mayor who left town to become the polygamist mayor of Salt Lake City. Hi, I'm Michael, and I'm learning a little bit more about Kentucky. One county at a time. All 120 of them. And today, I'm learning about Owen County. Owen County sits in the north-central part of the state, planted firmly within the Outer Bluegrass region where winding waterways like the Kentucky River and Eagle Creek cut through a deeply hilly terrain of limestone and shale. Before the arrival of modern highways, these rivers, of course, were the absolute lifeblood of the region, allowing settlers to push into the forested hills. Today, the population of Owen County sits around 11,000-ish residents. When European settlers began arriving in the early 1800s, they established small, rugged outposts that constantly shifted identities. In the north, a pioneer named Reuben Adams laid out a settlement initially called Adamstown. It was later dubbed Twin Meeting House after a local church, before finally settling on the name New Liberty in 1823. Further east, the Cobb family established a mill on a creek that was later acquired by the Lusby family, creating the village of Lusby's Mill. It quickly became a local hub featuring a 140-foot wooden-covered bridge and a distillery renowned for producing pure old copper-distilled whiskey. Down on the river, a man named James Williams set up a trading post in 1805, naturally naming the surrounding town Williamsburg. But the town didn't keep the name. In 1847, swept up in the patriotic fervor following General Zachary Taylor's victory in the Mexican-American War, the residents officially changed the town name to Monterey to commemorate the battle. As the population grew, the Kentucky legislature officially carved Owen County out of Franklin, Gallatin, Scott, and Pendleton counties on February 6, 1819. They named the jurisdiction in honor of Colonel Abraham Owen, a surveyor, legislator, and military officer who had recently been killed fighting alongside William Henry Harrison at the Battle of Tippecanoe. The new county needed a center of government. Officials initially established the county seat at a tiny settlement called Heslerville. However, the location proved inconvenient for many residents navigating those steep and muddy hills. In 1822, the county seat was moved 7 miles west to a brand new, centrally located town. They named the new settlement Owenton, and it has remained the political and commercial heart of the county ever since. The antebellum era in Owen County was defined by agriculture and river commerce. Farmers cleared the timber to raise dairy cows, beef cattle, and burley tobacco. But moving those goods to market over steep ridges was a difficult challenge. That changed in the 1840s when the state constructed a system of locks and dams along the Kentucky River. The infrastructure tamed the unpredictable currents, allowing packet boats and steamships to make regular trips between Frankfort and Louisville. Small river ports sprang up at places like Gratz and Monterey. Steamboats like the New Hanover and the Ravona, which was simply Hanover spelled backwards, became the lifeline of the local economy, hauling immense wooden hogsheads of tobacco down the Ohio River. Politically, the county earned a famous moniker during this era. In the early 1850s, a rising political star named John C. Breckinridge was locked in a tight race for Congress. The district had traditionally been dominated by the Whig Party, but the voters of Owen County overwhelmingly cast their ballots for the Democratic candidate, giving Breckinridge the exact margin of victory he needed. Grateful for their unwavering support, Breckinridge affectionately dubbed the area Sweet Owen. And when the Civil War erupted, Sweet Owen found itself deeply divided. The county saw a series of minor, highly localized skirmishes as guerrilla fighters and home guard units clashed in the hills. Lusby's Mill became a flashpoint, hosting a Confederate training ground known as Camp Humphrey. In June of 1862, a detachment of the 18th Indiana Infantry scattered a Confederate band at Lusby's Mill. In 1864, the legendary Confederate raider John Hunt Morgan even passed through the county after escaping a Union prison in Ohio seeking refuge at a local farmhouse. But the violence in Owen County didn't stop when the formal war ended. During the Reconstruction era, the county became a theater for brutal vigilante violence. The Ku Klux Klan established a terrifying presence in the area, launching night raids to intimidate and murder formerly enslaved African Americans and Union sympathizers. The federal government eventually intervened. Deputy U.S. Marshals Willis Russell, a respected minister and veteran, was sent to Owen County to lead a crackdown on the Klan. He aggressively pursued the night riders, making several high-profile arrests. In retaliation, Russell was ambushed and assassinated in his own home in September of 1875. The dramatic and publicized murder of a federal marshal shocked the region and effectively broke the Klan's power in Owen and neighboring counties as state and federal authorities finally moved in to crush the violence. But the aftermath remains an infuriating piece of true crime. The local Klan leader, William Smoot, was tried for Russell's assassination in Owenton and explicitly acquitted by a sympathetic local jury, sparking national outrage. While Smoot and his accomplices were later convicted of other civil rights violations under the Enforcement Acts, they were unfortunately and shockingly pardoned by President Ulysses S. Grant, entirely escaping justice for the reign of terror they inflicted on the county. Beyond the bloodshed of the 19th century, the county's historical records are full of bizarre, incredible human moments. There's the story of Abraham Owen Smoot, a boy born in the county in 1815. As a young man, he converted to the newly formed Mormon faith and joined the pioneer migration out west. He became an incredibly prominent leader in the LDS Church, eventually serving as the second mayor of Salt Lake City. According to newspapers, in 1880, Smoot returned to Owen County for a visit as a very rich man with 5 wives and 22 children. Sometime in the late 19th century, a flatboat drifted up the Kentucky River and docked at Ball's Landing, modern-day Perry Park. On board was an enormous, decaying whale. The opportunistic owners charged locals 25 cents for admission to see the landlocked Leviathan. A teacher from the nearby Squiresville school actually organized a field trip for her students where the kids were allowed to stand inside the whale's mouth, propped open with a wooden chair. People thought it was a hoax at first, but the unmistakable, horrific smell proved to everyone that it was entirely real. There's also an agricultural marvel of 1886. A man named M.G. Waldrop from the community of Sweet Owen owned a local curiosity that made national newspapers. Advertised as an automatic, self-adjusting, anti-troublesome walnut huller. The attraction was actually just a living cow with a bizarre appetite. The cow would swallow black walnuts whole, let them sit in her stomach, belch them back up, chew off the bitter green hull, swallowing the hull, and spit the perfectly cleaned, cracked walnut back out for her owner. In 1869, local paranoia reached such a pitch that a woman was actually presented to the Owen County grand jury on the formal charge of being a witch. A local man named James P. Jump made headlines by eating 22 eggs in a single sitting, challenging any man in the state of Kentucky to an egg-eating contest for $50. In the tiny river town of Gratz, local women quietly made history. Starting with Ida M. Johnson in 1914, the town's post office was run almost exclusively by women. For 63 consecutive years, from 1927 until the branch finally closed in 1990, an unbroken line of female postmasters managed the mail, a remarkably progressive legacy for a tiny rural town. In May of 1988, a couple in Owenton discovered the remains of a strangled woman. For 34 years, she was unidentified, known as Jane Doe. The cold case gained significant traction among online sleuths when the FBI released confessions from Samuel Little, the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history, who confessed to strangling a woman in the mid-1980s in the hills of northern Kentucky. While Little's timeline didn't perfectly match, the case was heavily scrutinized. Finally, in late 2022, genetic genealogy identified the woman as Linda Bennett of Columbus, Ohio. Her murder technically remains an open, unsolved investigation today. While agriculture remained the dominant economic force above ground, the 20th century brought an unusual industrial boom beneath it. The eastern part of Owen County lies within the central Kentucky lead-zinc district. Beginning in the early 1900s, mining companies sank shafts into the limestone bedrock along the Lockport Gratz veins. The industry intensified during World War II. Between 1943 and 1944 alone, the KT Dome mine shipped 30 carloads of zinc concentrate and 10 carloads of lead concentrate to support the war effort. By the 1960s, the veins were exhausted and the mines were quietly abandoned. Today, Owen County remains a heavily rural community. The modern economic profile has faced significant painful challenges in recent years. For decades, the local economy was anchored by the Owen County Memorial Hospital and a large electronics manufacturing plant that produced electric power meters. In 2016, both institutions shut down. The hospital's closure forced residents to travel to either Frankfort or Carrollton for emergency care, while the plant's closure wiped out roughly 450 jobs, devastating the local tax base. But the county is aggressively working to rebuild. In February of 2025, the state officially certified a 49-acre build-ready industrial site in Owenton, complete with new roads, upgraded sewer and water lines, and high-speed fiber optic broadband, positioning the county to attract new manufacturing and distribution employers. The county also leverages its environment for recreation and heritage tourism, though the rivers still bring danger. In April 2025, heavy spring rains caused intense flooding in the riverside community of Monterey, marking the worst flood event in the area since 1997. Residents maintain a deep connection to their architectural history in the county. The Owen County Courthouse, built in 1857, remains one of the finest small Greek Revival temple-form courthouses in the state. And just down the road, The historic river town of Gratz preserves its 19th century charm. The town is home to the Mason Brown House, a Gothic Revival river home built in 1856 for the Kentucky Secretary of State, which now operates as a local history museum and inn. The county also produced one of the most distinguished military leaders of the Second World War. Vice Admiral Willis A. Lee, born in Natley in 1888, went on to win 5 gold medals in marksmanship at the 1920 Olympics before commanding American battleships in the Pacific. So, that's Owen County. What did I get wrong this time?